Top story. We can now declare Russia the winner of the Cold War after General Secretary Joseph Stalin Biden swapped Victor Bout, known as the Merchant of Death, according to the one sentence I've read about him, for WNBA star Brittney Griner, who proudly twice won gold for the United States just so Trump could have less of it. Now, President Trump, who masterfully negotiated the swapping of a thriving Atlantic City for a pile of rebar and hypodermic needles, Truth Socialed that he would have done way better and gotten 0 Americans home, writing, "I wouldn't have made the deal for 100 people. That's right, Trump is a hard bargainer. You can't get what you want from him unless you have at least 10 compliments for his calves. Here to run interference on this humiliating basic humanity gaffe is Chief of Staff to Hillary Clinton Rodham and author of Both and A Life in Many Worlds, Huma Abedin.
Tyler, I'm so happy to be on the show with you.
Great to have you, but now we are sworn enemies. Now, Huma, why are people praising Biden for liberating 1 American when Trump liberated 1 million COVID-suffering Americans from the torture of existence?
Well, first of all, I had the great privilege of meeting Brittney Griner's wife, Sherelle, a few weeks ago at a dinner, and I can only imagine the relief and the joy that they are experiencing right now with the release of Brittney. I worked at the State Department. I have chapters about that experience in my book when Hillary was Secretary of State, when Obama was president. Every time an American is captured abroad or is imprisoned abroad, it is a priority for our government to procure their release. And for every, hot take or every little headline that we see about a release or about a negotiation, there are hundreds of hours of real, very difficult conversations, because in many cases you're dealing with governments that aren't necessarily our friends.
Hold on. Biden releasing Victor Bout is just a case of cronyism after the Lockheed Martin CEO complained that this country isn't big enough for 2 merchants of death.
Hello, the Russians are America's enemy unless we're talking about their war with Ukraine, in which case, what do we have against Russia?
Moving on, FBI Director James Comey announced that he was looking into newly discovered Hillary Clinton emails on your ex-husband's computer 11 days before the presidential election, which sounds bad until you remember it's almost twice the time God took to create the universe. But in your new book, you write, "I have slowly come to accept that I am not the sole cause of the 2016 election loss. One man's decision to play God forever changed the course of history. It should not be my burden to carry the rest of my life. It should be his." Huma, how did you manage to break free from what I thought was a foolproof culture that programs women to blame themselves for everything?
I do think that we live in a culture, frankly, certainly here and maybe everywhere, where we as women shoulder the burden, take the blame, assume it's our fault. In that particular case, the very next morning after the election, it was the first thing I heard from a reporter when I walked out of the hotel after Hillary conceded. And the question was, do you feel responsible for her loss? And I did. I did for a long time.
You had nothing to do with Hillary's loss. There was not a candidate on earth who could recover from saying Pokemon Go to the polls.
The topic of James Comey's legacy brings us to a very special holiday hot take PSA starring me and Huma Abedin. Well, folks, it's Christmas time, and in that spirit, my dear friend Huma Abedin and I are putting aside our petty differences and focusing on the one big thing we all agree on. James Comey sucks. Democrats hate him because he meddled in the presidential election, denying this nation its first female president. And Republicans hate him because, well, I can't remember, but Trump hates him, so I hate him too. Please consider joining Huma and I in supporting the James Comey Project, which raises money to launch Comey through a cactus and into the Grand Canyon. Huma, I'll match your donation. How much can we put you down for?
I'll have to, part of my recovery, Tyler, is to forgive and move on and not carry resentments, and so I can't put a price on that.
In summary, Huma is my spiritual opposite.